today our training is going to today our training is going to be recorded, and Kat's going to be using it in her Team Love page, which is nice and exciting for all of us. We're only a small team, so to have our trainings be put in there is kind of a really big deal. And this morning we're going to, I just want everybody to pop in the chat. Does anybody know how kind of Juice Plus originated and began? And if you do, I want you to pop yes in the chat. And if you don't know how it started and where it came from, I want you to put no in the chat. Perfect. Yes and no. Perfect. Okay, so today we're going to be starting our training with a little bit of a background so you can understand the company that you work for and how freaking amazing it is. So there's a little bit of a write-up. I'm going to read that out first, and then we're going to move on to long-term vision and what that looks like within your business. Okay, so the true and original story of Juice Plus and how it came about. Do you know it? Please read on and save this into your notes, and I'll be putting this into our group chat afterwards as well so you can refer back to it. Many people you're welcome to start taking Juice Plus every day and into our community and mission will love knowing what, who, and where this came about. Stories are everything. Facts tell, stories sell. If you don't yet know the story of how Juice Plus was born, then read this, own it, and be able to retell it along with your own story. Before I tell you about the research behind Juice Plus, I'd like to tell you the personal story that led to the development of this whole food product. When we're experiencing a trauma or other significant event, we don't always fully understand how much of an impact it has on us until it's passed. And then we realize that it has changed our lives for the better. Living a life is a lesson itself and always teaching us something. We just have to learn. We just have to learn how to interpret the direction it is taking us. Even a chronic illness is pointing us in a specific direction, as I learned when my father got sick. I was 19 and I was in Denver, Colorado. During a break, I received a phone call from my father, and he told me his spleen was swollen to the size of a football. It was so large he was using one of his Marine Corps belts to hold it up, and it was so painful that he could hardly move. My mother made an appointment for him at a nearby hospital where the doctors could not believe how large his spleen had grown and the fact that it was still growing. At the end of the day, my dad called me again and said that he was diagnosed with lymphoma cancer and lymphatic system. I was so stunned I couldn't even reply. I just held the phone, praying that I didn't really hear what he had just said. My throat closed up and it was so tight that I could hardly breathe. He felt my shock and distress and told me that everything was going to be okay. Being a neuropath and teaching people for years how to live by the laws of nature, I had to ask myself, why did this happen? Don't we all wonder why when something traumatic happens to us? I told my dad I'd be home in 4 days as soon as my tour was over. By the time I got there, his doctors had already removed his spleen and started chemotherapy. I was floored, totally irate. No questions had been asked. They just did the surgery and started pumping him full of drugs. After 3 weeks, my father had lost 40 pounds and nothing was working. The chemotherapy had failed and there was nothing more that he could do. His doctor called our family together and told us that my dad had no more than 3 weeks to live. After breaking the news to my dad, I asked if he'd like my natural therapy at my clinic in Tucson, Arizona, where I would take care of him. And what he replied was that I would have come to you before this, but I didn't want you to feel responsible for anything bad that had happened. I picked him up and carried him out of that hospital without even checking him out. By the time we got to Tucson, he weighed 136 pounds and his cancer was traveling so fast in his body that he couldn't eat or drink. How do you nourish somebody who can't eat or drink? I started massaging him every day with olive oil so his body would absorb the fat through his skin. He could only sip water, so I devised a plan to get more nutrients into him through another route. I built a slant board for him to lie on, made fresh green juice with kale, parsley, and some additional liquid, and used an enema bag to feed him through his bowels daily with juices. As he got stronger, he was able to drink vegetable juices and by the mouth. Fruit juices were too much for him. They'd make him feel unbearably ill because of the amount of sugar that was in them. You don't want to feed cancer cells sugar because they thrive on it. It acidifies the body, putting an even greater strain on the sick person's system. I wanted to find a way to get more concentrated nutrients into his body so that I was able to increase his strength and boost his healing process. It occurred to me that if I could juice the vegetables and dry the juice, the more powder would be more concentrated than the juice itself. I set up small dryers in my office and found that it would take hours to dry the juice, but it worked. I'd give him tablespoons of vegetable juice powder and stirred them into small amounts of water daily. To my amazement, keep in mind, at the time we knew nothing about phytochemicals in 2 months. He put on 30 pounds and there was no meat or carbohydrates other than tablespoons of dried vegetables in his juice diet. Bear in mind, this was a man who had been given 3 weeks to live. I wondered how someone could put on so much weight without eating. He then got to the point where he could also drink fruit juice powder without feeling ill. So he'd have fruit juice powder in the morning and vegetable juice powder in the evening. I gave him very little fruit juice powder, though as I noticed if I gave him too much, his urine pH would turn to acidic. I also added, proteolytic enzymes and some herbs into the regime. I was constantly changing the dosages of his supplements according to his pH levels, using the monitoring system in the book. These results were astonishing. Within 3 months of taking my father out of his treatment, my father had got out of bed and remodeled my kitchen. He had been a carpenter his whole life and loved working with wood. Continuing on a nutritional program of eating large amounts of vegetables, dried powders, and soaking up all the sprouts, seeds, and nuts, he went back to work within 6 months and worked as a carpenter for another 6 years. It's my opinion that he'd still be alive today if his doctors had not removed his spleen and given him such high dosages of drugs during his hospitalization. Power of Enzymes book from the Father's Recovery. I realized the hidden healing power of whole foods. So I began studying all fruits and vegetables known to man, and I learned that some were much more nutrient dense than others. Ironically, the ones most concentrated in nutrients were the ones most people didn't like to eat or always cooked before eating. For example, parsley, beets, cabbage, and broccoli. To name a few, experimenting over several months, I created one concentrated juice powder formula with fruits and another with vegetables. The most nutrient-dense fruits and vegetables on the planet. Soon my clinic looked more like a produce drying facility, and everyone who came to me, regardless of the problem, was given a bag of each powder. The healings that I observed were no less than miraculous. I knew I was onto something big when my patients were getting well so fast. The formulas I used in my clinical practice are now the most wonderful line of fruit and vegetable concentrates called Juice Plus. I designed these products and manufactured and distributed them and promoted them, benefiting thousands of people in over 30 countries worldwide. Juice Plus is the most researched product in the world today. Just before my father died, he was so concerned about my professional reputation that he said, "If I die, will people still believe in you? Will they still buy your books?" I said, "Dad, what we've accomplished here together is out of this world." This idea of concentrated fruits and vegetables being able to save lives or delay the process of people who are extremely sick is insane. And that's exactly what happened. My father's recovery gave birth to the most wonderful product in the line of fruit and vegetable concentrates, which is Juice Plus. My father taught me pride and honor. He would tell me that a man's word is all he has. And in over 50 years of being a carpenter, he never once had a written contract with anyone, only an agreement with a smile of honor and love. He will always own a piece of my heart, and I know he is always with me. He's my strength and motivation. So if you didn't know, now you know. You work for you don't even work actually, you're a volunteer. You volunteer for an insanely amazing company. And the reason that it's so important for you to know about the background is because you will come across people who tell you all sorts of different things. And when you forget, you can go back and you can look at that and you can remind yourself that these products are the #1 products researched in the world. So when people try to tell you that they're full of shit, there's people with PhDs, with degrees, who have actually certified these products. There's scientists who have done scientific research on these, who again have certified these products. So next time you have somebody telling you that this is a scam or this is a pyramid scheme, which I want to touch base on, because if this was a pyramid scheme, it wouldn't even be alive and beating. Pyramid schemes are illegal and they get shut down as soon as the government or whatever find out about them. So you can put your mind to rest about that as well. But going on from there, we're going to talk about long-term vision today. And the reason that I want to talk about long-term vision is because, one, I'm coming up almost to my first year in this business, which is so exciting. But I'm also wanting to get everybody in the same mindset and mentality that I'm currently in, and that all our 6-7-figure earners are in as well, because it's really important. If you don't have a long-term vision, chances are you'll burn out, things will get boring, and you won't show up, right? Now, I want you to think about this business opportunity like it's a job. And there'll be many people who say, oh, this isn't a job, da, 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 da. But what I can tell you is if you commit to this and treat it like it's a job, it will pay you, right? So if you looked at lives and showing up on lives like it was your job, then you'd do it, right? If you looked at jumping on a story and posting your capsules every day like it was a story, you'd do it, right? And what I'm going to compare it to is if you turn up to Work and Income and they tell you that they're going to cut your benefit because you don't turn up to a work seminar, would you go? Yes. So I want you to show up to your business in the same way. If you went to a job and you were sick, but you needed to pay your rent, you'd still go to work, right? You'd still show up because you have rent to pay. I want you to show up in this business in the same way so that it pays you. And I want you to have a long-term vision so that when things get difficult and you feel like quitting, you can rise above that. And the reason that I'm going to talk about that is because I've been here for 10 months. And that's not very long when you look at people who have been here for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. But what I've learned in that short amount of time is that the first 1 to 2, even 3 years are when people want to quit. Like all of us sitting in here are not absolutely 100% sold that this is where we want to be and that this is for real. And I'm going to be honest about that, because being honest about it means that there's room to move forward and make progress. So if you're kind of sitting on the fence and you've been like, there's been so many times where I thought this is full of shit and I want out, it's normal. Do you know how many other people probably thought that too before they started earning $1 million a month or $100,000 a month? Now I want you to comment down in the chat and I want you to tell me how long you've been in this business, okay? And if it's been 2 weeks or 2 months or 3 months or 6 months or 5 months or whatever months, then you're still in that phase where your ability to quit is high. It's super high. Perfect. What I want you to do is I want you to rise above and beat the odds, because it's so easy to quit. It really fucking is. And it's something that people don't really talk about, right? People go, oh, you know, these are all the perks and these are all the amazing things. But I'll be honest with you, when I came into this business, I came in because I was desperate and I needed something more. Okay, I needed something way more than what I was getting. I was working a 9-to-5 job and I was prescribing health on the daily so that people could physically see. Like I was a huge reason why people could go out and drive their cars. I was a huge reason why people could go out and work. I was a huge reason why lots of things were happening, and I was getting $20 an hour, right? And I knew in 5 years' time, if I stayed in that company, there wasn't going to be much of a change. But what I found here is that I came into this company and I started at the same level as everybody else. There was no advantages for anybody else. There was no legs up. I've never been handed a promotion. I've never been handed anything. I had to work my fucking ass off for it every single day. And then that opportunity is here for each and every one of you. And let's be honest, you wouldn't be on the Zoom call if you didn't have a vision. And I want to talk about money, freedom money, right? What does your freedom amount of money look like? You should have that number in your head. And if you don't, write it down, because nothing's impossible now. You can make anything your reality. I'm telling you the truth. Honestly, if you do not have an amount of money that is going to set you free from everything, I want you to figure it out and I want you to write it down, because it's no longer out of your reach. You are more than capable of creating it. And if somebody had told me that 2 years ago, there we go. If somebody had told me that 2 years ago, I would have laughed at them. 10 months ago, there were people who laughed at me. People from my own family called me up and said to me, Are you really leaving your full-time job? It's a pretty professional title. You've got a huge criminal record. Do you really think you're going to make it in an online business? And I literally told them to get fucked and hung up the phone. And 10 months later, I represent $100,000 in sales. This face right here represents $100,000 in sales. If I'd listened to those people that laughed at me, if I'd listened to those people that were close to me, that have known me all my life, that said, oh, do you think you're capable of doing it? Is it really going to work? Oh, it's a scam. Oh, how embarrassing. Would I be here today? No way. I'm one rank away from having an all expenses retreat paid to a whole nother country. Now who's laughing? Like, these are the opportunities that are available to us. And if you want it, just like anything, if you want it bad enough, you'll get it, right? How many times have you got up in the morning and you couldn't be bothered, or you're struggling with depression, or you're struggling with anxiety, or you're struggling with addictions? And we're going to talk about that openly, because it's something in this group that I'm very, very proud of, because I came from here and I know what it's like to start at the fucking bottom and make your way to the top, slowly but very surely. Okay? If you let those things get in your way, where would you be? You choose to get up. This is your business. Put as much effort, put as much love, put as much compassion into it as you would if you were going to work for somebody else. Write down a number and double it. I've been in this for the long game since the first month I came into this business, regardless of my paycheck, regardless of the ranks that I've hit, regardless of the people that I've brought in, regardless of the customers that come on. Because what I know is in 5 years' time, that vision won't just be a vision anymore. It'll be my reality. And when you hold on to that tightly, people go, oh, it's hard. Compared to what? You know? You'll be in 5 years if you don't stick in it. Probably just quitting on something else. You know, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's the truth. If you don't give up now, it'll change your life, I promise you. You might think, oh yeah, it's just a business, blah, 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 but it's not. It's certifying your whole life that's ahead of you, in front of you, behind you, beside you, right? So things will never be the same again. Like, you've come into a business, and I have researched so many different MLMs, which was multi-level marketing businesses and networking marketing businesses. Sorry, Amira, can you just mute everyone? And what I've found is that you work for one of the best companies. I'm going to share an experience with you of my own from last month. So my partner last month, as I said, he worked 6 to 7 days a week, and they missed his paycheck. And he works his ass off for this company. He financially could not afford it because he pays the rent, which is a huge amount. And in 52 years, you work for a company that has never, ever missed a paycheck. Never. Juice Plus has never not paid someone, whether it was $1 million in commission, whether it was $100,000 in commission, whether it was $100 paycheck. I don't care the amount. They have never missed a paycheck. So you work for the most amazing company for so many reasons: their integrity, their morals, their why, how it began, where it's going. You work for a company that from day dot has had a long-term vision and has enabled all of us to be able to tap into that and finally figure out what our long-term vision is. And I don't just mean in money either. If you stick around long enough, and I've only been, like I said, I've only been here 10 months, and this has all kind of just come to me time after time. But if you stick in here long enough, what you'll realize is that this is an opportunity that is about so much more than money. Moving on from that, right? So many people go, oh my God, okay, so I've had so many people reach out to me, and I've had no customers, and I've had nobody responding to my polls, and I've been here for 1 month. So stay here for another 4. You might get 40 customers. You'll never know if you stop now. Geez, you know, don't be so quick to give up. This is your business. Essentially, what you're telling me when you walk out the door when it's difficult is that you're like, I'm giving up on myself. And I'm going to be real, because I've given up on myself enough times that when you do that, there's going to be the shame, there's going to be the guilt, there's going to be all that kind of stuff. Don't give yourself another reason to be a barrier in your own way. If you don't like the leadership, my upline, Amira could fall off the face of the earth tomorrow. I'm not going nowhere. It doesn't matter. I'm here. I'm not here because she's here. I'm here because I'm here.
My upline fell off the face of the earth, and I'm still here.
There you go. That's the truth of the matter. You know, if I fall off the face of the earth tomorrow, I want you to stay here because 1, you're worth it. 2, you're capable. 3, you have, oh my God, you have a vehicle of people who are willing to help you get to the top. these people who are earning this amount of and living this life that you so desperately want and need started right where we are. They were running for Partner Plus. They were running for sales senior partner. They were running for sales coordinator. They were running for more money to pay their rent. They were running out of depression. They were running away from homelessness. They were running away from toxic relationships. They were running out of drug addiction. They were running. And they fucking kept running until they didn't have to run anymore. And that's what I want for all of you. Run until you can't run anymore. And if you can't run, walk. And if you can't walk, crawl. Like the man himself said, you know? Find a way. Do whatever it is that you need to do to get up. It's going to be hard. Yes, it's going to be painful. Yes, there's going to be people in here that you click with more that you're going to get off the phone and go, fuck, she's annoying. You know, or God, she drives me crazy. Or that's fine. I don't care. Find whatever works for you and make it work. Make it work the whole way. Now, if you don't like my leadership, become a leader. You know, take up your own leadership. Run the Zooms. I'll get on them. I'd love to listen to somebody other than my own voice. But seriously, if you don't like the leadership that's happening, pave the way. There was certain things in this business that I didn't like, and I didn't sit around going, oh, well, I can't get my next promotion because I don't like that Zoom or I don't like that person. Get that shit out of your head. It's honestly just encouraging more limiting beliefs. Every time you go, oh, I can't do it because my upline sucks, or I can't do it because those trainings are too much, or I can't do that. It's all limiting beliefs. Get rid of it. It's not going to serve you. It's not helping you. It's not pushing forward. All right. I knew that it was going to be difficult. I knew that I never set a goal to earn $1 million in my first year. I've definitely set a goal to make $1 million in this company, and I'm well on my way. But what I knew was that the gratification was going to be delayed. And an amazing lady says it herself, the gratification was going to be delayed, but the foundation was going to be strong. So if my business relies on nobody, I'm telling you, I rely on nobody. Like I said, I love Amira and she's led me to this point and she helps me every day. But if she was to leave, I'd still be here. If one of yous were to up and leave, I would still be here. And I want you to get your mind around that. Regardless of who comes and goes, regardless of who lets you down, regardless of it, I want you to stick it into your mind that you're here for you and you're here for the long term, right? Now, moving on from that in customers and team. So people go, oh, I want heaps of new team, right? And they go, oh my God, I've got 3 team members on and 2 of them don't even show up and I've never talked to them. Don't do that. Do not compare yourself to anything or anyone. It's got nothing to do with you. And I'm not even saying, there's no good or bad people. What I'm saying is that maybe they just weren't meant to be an entrepreneur. That's fine. You know, at one point in my life, I thought I was going to be the biggest woman drug dealer in New Zealand. Turns out I just wasn't supposed to be that. Now I'm here. Everything happens for a reason, you know, it really does. So don't put your whole faith and your whole business into somebody. I'll be honest, do I make override commission? Yes, I do. And I'm not ashamed to talk about that. It's a very small percentage. If I don't keep my own business in line, guess what? I don't get my own commission. I don't get override commission. That's why I tell you, do not put your business into somebody else. Because if Kahuli was to up and leave tomorrow, guess what? My paycheck wouldn't change very much. If Jessie was to up and leave tomorrow, my paycheck wouldn't change very much because I work every month. I get up every day and I work. And my business, as I said, relies on no one other than me. That's what my business relies on. So don't put heavy reliance into team, into customers, into people, into places. If you get up every day and you action it and you work at it, it'll be fine, honestly. No, anybody could, and I'm not saying I want you to leave because you're all freaking amazing. Please don't get that in your head as it's like your one-way ticket out of here, because that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is if anybody did leave tomorrow, my business wouldn't fall over. It truly wouldn't, honestly. Get your head around that. Get your head in the game. Get your head in your game. You're fucking worth it. Okay? Now, I want you to look at it like this. I had a call with Kat, right, one day, and she said you could be, I think it was a hooker or a sinker. And I was like, I don't like that. But what she said is that you can hook whoever you want in to be your teamie, to support, to help, or you can be a hooker. You can be very specific about who it is that you're going to bring on. And for ages, do you know what? I was just like, I'm happy to help anyone, until I realized, no, I'm not. Do you know who I want to work with? I want to work with people who are not perfect. I want to work with people who are willing, who are open-minded, who are teachable, who teach me something, who there's a reciprocal relationship with. Because every morning that I get up and I see Jessie taking her capsules and doing her lives, I see Lisa reaching out, doing lives with people. You know, I see Aroha taking her capsules. I see Kahui getting on every day and getting in front of that camera now. What it does is it gives me hope and faith that this business is working for more than just me. Okay. So I get taught a lot by all of you as well. It doesn't matter where you're at in this business. But what I want you to figure out is if you're a hooker or you're a sinker. Okay. If you're going to bring on whoever you want and kind of just let it be, or if you're going to be really specific. And the way that I've started to think about it is I wouldn't pick up any stranger off the road to babysit my kid. And I can guarantee none of you would do that either. So no longer am I recruiting just anybody. I'm being very, very, very persistent and decisive about who I'm picking. Because it's my business, it's my livelihood, it's my long-term vision. It's my legacy that I'm leaving behind for my family. When I'm not here anymore, when all of us aren't here anymore, if you've built $1 million business, your children will get it. Your children get this business. You don't get washed off the face of the earth and that's it. Oh, see you later. Mum had nothing but a big debt, you know, a big funeral bill to pay. That's not the case. You can rest assured that when you lay out and you're dead and gone, your family's fine. Start showing up like this is a legacy for your family, because it is. It truly is. And if you didn't why, that can be your why. This is a legacy for your family. And when you look at that every day, I guarantee it'll get your ass moving. And if it doesn't, god damn, I don't know what will. Jesus, I really don't know what will. But yeah, build a culture. That's what we've built in here. We've built a beautiful culture in here. We've built the ability to be vulnerable in our group chat, and we're seeing people role model that. You don't have to be perfect, you really don't. And if you're having shit down, be honest about it, because it inspires somebody who needs to hear it. All right? If you're struggling in any area, be honest about it. Isn't it crazy to think that 10 months ago, I didn't even know half of you? We never even knew that we existed. And now we're a goddamn team. And we call ourselves the clique. Is that not crazy to you? How amazing it is. What you're capable of is that I did not know any of you. There's maybe 2 or 3 of you that I knew. And other than that, none of us knew each other's names. None of us knew our backgrounds. None of us knew anything about each other. But that's the ability of transforming your own lives through other people. Thank you, Amira. I did see that come up. Gee, she can really yabber on, can't she? But yeah, that's the beauty of it. That is the beauty of it. Get used to it. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Create a go live. Go live because it's implementing more toward your legacy for your family. Do the video, do the posts, show up every day. The formulas, for me, the formula is not just in taking the capsules or making the food. The formula is in showing up when I don't want to. I didn't want to get up this morning. I didn't, I'll be honest. My 4 o'clock alarm went off and I went, oh, really? Another one, you know, DJ Khaled, another one. Ugh, far out. And do you know what I did? I literally told myself, you better get that ass up, girl. Get up. I had to physically and emotionally tell myself to get up. And if that's what you have to do it. Don't do it because I said it. Do it because you're doing it for yourself. I think I'm done. I don't think I need the whole 10 minutes. So you can stop the recording, Amira. We'll give that.